Greetings, Guardians. This is Olympus Alliance. And today we continue our Talisman series, but more importantly, we continue building something that every serious player needs to understand, because this is not just about picking a talisman, this is about understanding how your hero performs in different situations, how small stat changes can completely shift performance, and how adapting your build can turn a good result into a great one. And the idea here is simple. We don't rush, we don't generalize. We break each hero down properly, and only at the end of the faction do we step back and look at the bigger picture, because understanding comes from detail, not from shortcuts. And as always, one important detail before we start. When we talk about talismans, we always mention the fixed stat first, and the variable stat second, because that second stat. That's where the real optimization happens, that's where your metacubes go. And that's what separates a decent build from a great one, because talismans are different. Everything else in your hero is locked once you build it. Skins, glyphs, artifacts. Once they're done, they're done. But talismans are flexible, they are the only real tool you have to adapt your hero depending on the fight, and that means they can change everything, sometimes for the better. Sometimes for the worse. So today, we're looking at Jhu, the Hydra killer. A hero that doesn't dominate PvP, doesn't appear in war, doesn't define arena metas, but every single day, delivers one of the most important roles in the game. Because Jhu is built for one thing, and one thing only: destroying bosses. And that changes everything about how we evaluate his talisman. Because this is not about arena performance. This is not about countering teams. This is about maximizing damage input. Specifically against the Hydra. And that means the way we think about stats needs to change. So let's begin with the first option. The Talisman of Fury. Strength as the main stat. Critical hit chance as the secondary. And immediately this aligns perfectly with what Jhu is designed to do. Strength increases his physical attack. And physical attack directly scales his damage output, especially against bosses where sustained hits matter more than burst, and then you add critical hit chance on top of that, and suddenly every attack has the potential to hit harder, to spike damage, and to increase overall performance over time. This is exactly what you want from a HYDRA damage dealer. Consistent scaling. With the potential for critical bursts. And because HYDRA fights are long, because they are repetitive, because they rely on sustained output rather than quick kills, that extra creep becomes incredibly valuable, because over time, it adds up. So on paper, this talisman is clean. It supports Jhu's role. It enhances his damage. And it aligns perfectly with his purpose. But then we look at the second option. The Talisman of Immortality. And this is where things start to become interesting. Because now we are looking at physical attack as the main stat. Which again, sounds great, because physical attack is exactly what Jhu needs, but then we look at the secondary stat. Armor. And this is where the problem begins. Because in most heroes, armor is valuable, armor increases survivability, armor allows heroes to stay in the fight longer. But Jhu is not most heroes. Jhu functions differently. Because for Jhu to be effective against the Hydra, he actually needs to take damage. And the more damage he takes, the faster he gains energy. And the faster he gains energy, the faster he uses his ultimate. And that ultimate is where his real damage comes from. So now we have a situation where armor, instead of helping him, is actually working against him. Because by reducing the damage he takes, You are slowing down his energy gain. You are delaying his ultimate. And in a long fight like Hydra, that delay adds up. It reduces overall damage output. It reduces efficiency. And it makes him less effective in the exact role he was designed for. And that is why this talisman, despite having a strong main stat, becomes problematic. Because the secondary stat directly conflicts with his core mechanic. And that is something you always need to watch for when evaluating talismans. Not just what stats they give, but how those stats interact with the hero's kit. Because sometimes, what looks good on paper performs worse in reality. And this is exactly one of those cases. So when we compare the two, the conclusion becomes clear. The Talisman of Fury is the better choice for Jhu. Not because the second talisman is completely useless, but because the first one aligns perfectly with how he works. It increases his damage through strength. It improves his output through critical hits. And most importantly, it does not interfere with his energy generation. And that last point is everything. Because Jhu is not about surviving longer. He is about cycling faster. He is about reaching his ultimate as quickly as possible. And repeating that cycle over and over again. And anything that slows that down is a problem. So for Hydra battles, for boss fights, for daily performance, the answer is simple. Stick with the Talisman of Fury. It gives you everything you need. And nothing you don't. Now, does that mean the second talisman has no place at all? Not necessarily. In rare scenarios? In different contexts, where survivability might matter more, it could have some value. But for what Jhu is actually used for what most players build him for what defines his role in the game, the choice is clear. And this is where understanding becomes more important than just reading stats. Because Jhu teaches us something important about talismans. That the best option is not always the one with the highest numbers. It's the one that works with the hero, not against him. So Guardians, now we want to hear from you. Do you stick with the Talisman of Fury for your Hydra runs? Or have you experimented with other options? Have you tested both? And did you notice the difference in performance? Let us know in the comments. And tell us which hero you want us to cover next, because we are just getting started with nature, and there is still so much to explore. We're going deeper. We're going smarter. And by the end of this series, you won't just equip talismans. You'll understand them. Stay tuned, stay sharp. And as always, salute and friendship.